So I get letters from you guys all the time. I do. You send me way too many letters. They say, Mike, what makes man different from beast? And I thought about this for a while. Probably something like 2 or 5 years. And I came to the conclusion that, among a few other things less important, the chief difference between man and beast is the opposable thumb. I did it with my other thumb off camera. You didn't quite see that. Opposable thumbs. What makes us different is that, you ever see a cat or a dog, they got their thumbs up here on the forearm, and they can't move them. They don't use them for anything. They got four toes, and then they have that thumb that is useless. That almost vestigial device. Anyway, we gain an advantage through the existence of the opposable thumb, and that advantage is nonverbal communication. So yeah, dogs wag their tail, and cats purr or something. I don't know. That's verbal. Cat's hair stands up. Some nonsense like that. Some pseudoscience. But with man, the energy expenditure for nonverbal communication is so small and negligible, because all that we need to communicate nonverbally is a thumb up or a thumb down. If you've ever seen movies, fine cinema such as The Gladiator, or Gladiator as some of you may know it, Julius Caesar and what's his name, Syphilis, they're in a constant battle for good and evil, and Caesar says no, and when he says no, he kills a man. Basically he kills a man with the very motion of his thumb, and that's quite impressive, I thought, as I watched that film. And it really dawned on me in that moment, more than any other time in my 2 to 5 years of contemplation, that the thumb is probably the most important form of nonverbal communication that we have. I have this friend named Gary, and he says to me, hey Mike, and I say, hey Gary. I have this friend named Gary. He says, hey Mike, when he sees me. But I have this friend named Gary, and I go, Gary! I'm shouting for him because I gotta get his attention. I have a question for him. I says to him, Gary! Gary, what are we doing? Gary! And he says, yeah, Mike, what's up? He's in the other room watching football. And I ask him, I say, Gary, what do you think of the current state of our nation and the fact that our president is teasing nuclear war every other day to protect his bankroll and his son's $50,000 salary from a Ukrainian power company? And he doesn't respond verbally. Instead, he powerfully and concisely responds like this in the other room. And I know that because I can feel it in my gut that that's what he's responding. Or I also says to him, Gary! And he goes, yeah, Mike. I says to him, Gary, how do you feel about me inoculating my infant son against a disease that will not affect him even if he catches it, so that Pfizer can take a handful from the public purse to complete yet another power cycle or power stroke of the wealth transfer engine of this great nation of ours? And he says nothing with his mouth, but he says it with his body. He says, or I says, Gary! And he goes, Mike. I say, Gary, how do you feel? How many times can I use Hamlin's razor to attribute stupidity to the malice and genuine apathy, if not hatred, of the elite class towards normal people such as you and I, every time they do anything that is explicitly evil? And Gary says, he doesn't give me a number. He just says, and I find that very poetic. The thumb is a very masculine form of communication. It's very stoic, and it's very concise, you know. It's stoic, concise, full of meaning, full of implicit meaning given the context. It requires a great amount of emotional IQ and EQ. It requires a great EQ, emotional intelligence, to use and to receive that kind of communication. So the thumb is a symbol of masculine power and emotional intelligence in a broken modern world. And that's why I think that's why I think my friend Gary, about whom I've spoken so much, that's why I think my friend Gary has taken the thumb pill, because he sees that. He sees the potential of the thumb, and he sees the power of the thumb. He sees how useful it is as a communication tool and as a tool of status as far as marking your place in the hierarchy. So anyway, I hope you guys take the thumb pill, and if not, you know, I hope this at least starts your journey down the thumb pill hole. I myself am a red-pilled fellow. I consider myself to be red-pilled. I consider myself to be Mgtow red-pilled. Meninist Mgtow. But I think my friend Gary is really onto something when he says, I'm taking the thumb pill. And I think his statement in taking the thumb pill is very powerful and is going to ripple through the ages. So yeah, just food for thought. Next time you have something to say, instead of saying it, how about you thumb it? Thumb pill.